Welcome to Galaxy Tenants, an Earthbound podcast from the Milky Way galaxy. My name is Jay Picard, and co-producing this episode is my wife Carly.
For episode 4, we head to Germany for a conversation with Bennet Cerven of the Trouble Notes, and we feature a couple of songs from their quarantine concert. But first, a read about gardening from Julie Bloom.
My name is Julie Bloom, and I have always been connected to nature. I grew up in a small rural town called Upatoy, Georgia. I ran around barefoot through fields and forests, catching frogs and picking wild blackberries. In my middle school years, my family moved into town, into a neighborhood where the ease of walking out the back door into vast scenery was gone. During this time, my wanderlust grew and grew, and as soon as I could travel, I made my way out west to explore the wilderness. When I returned from my backcountry camping trips, I realized how important our self-sufficiency is in an age of climate change. Even though Georgia is flat and full of intolerable racism, it has a fertile and rich climate for growing a garden. I miss the grandeur of the mountains, but found comfort in my plant friends. There is no sweeter tasting freedom than eating your own homegrown tomato. Right now, it is mid-April, which is the perfect time to begin a spring into summer garden. The first farmer I ever got my hands dirty with told me to be wary of planting in the ground before 420. Cold nights below 45 degrees can kill young plants. I recommend starting off with container gardens, and then growing into bigger plots with raised beds, and depending on where you are, tilled earth. It is so important to become familiar with the ecosystem within your backyard. What trees, shrubs, and grasses are already growing? Are there any animals around? Where does the shade fall? How will your water flow? Generally, when roots are established, your plants will happily grow, because that is its purpose in life. To soak up nutrients and grow. However, tending to your plants will keep them stable and secure. Plants left to wild forces may not produce the most satisfying and efficient harvests. Visit your plant friends every day and listen to what they have to say. Their communication is not verbal, but they will certainly let you know if they need more or less water, sun, and nutrients. The way their bodies wilt and shift in color are indications that it may be unhappy. The daily communication with plants is the best way to make sure you have a healthy and vital garden. Becoming a farmer or herbalist will require years of patience and effort to understand how your garden grows. Every season brings new challenges in weather and pests. Every year is a new year and will teach you many lessons about improving garden design, crop yields, and mitigating pests. Starting your own garden is a great way to experience grounding and self-sufficiency in a time where our livelihoods and the planet is constantly berated with harm. If it feels daunting to grow your own food, start small and grow a rosemary bush or maybe some mint. Get in touch with the local farmers in your area and see how you can volunteer and support their markets. Do what you can to return to your little patch of land. Sit by your favorite tree. Take a walk by the closest river. Any connections you can make to nature will empower your sense of freedom, and we need to feel that liberty collectively more than ever now.
Now off to Germany for Jay's conversation with Bennet Cerven of the Trouble Notes.
How are things in Germany? Tell me about where you guys are holed up.
Right now, we've actually retreated into the forest. We're literally dead in the center of the country. Frankly, I'm kind of secluded from it all right now. So in the week when you and I last spoke, just before we had to cancel that US tour, and I would say at that time, things were really feeling real for us already in Berlin. You could sense that a lot of places were closing down. In fact, I had a couple of friends who were owning bars, and the police actually showed up and said, "Hey, this is done, no more." The local pub that's literally underneath my house, which the guys they're really cool, and we try to support them whenever we can. They also were like, "Yeah, we're a restaurant. We're going to be able to stay open for a few days, but it looks like we're closing." And so everything was starting to board up and close back when we had our call. And so we got out of Dodge and found a place through a mutual friend, and basically I took my entire music studio from my home and brought it here. And we've just built up a recording studio. And that's all we've been doing is basically just sitting here and just making new music.
That's great. It's probably a good thing that you're, out of the cities. I know that Europe got hit harder prior to America getting hit. Now America's really skyrocketed as far as cases and death toll and whatnot. But I am glad that you guys are safe. What do your days look like there at the place you guys are at?
Well, so yeah, I mean, it's a weird scenario. I mean, it's kind of a dream scenario in a way for someone that wants to write music, because essentially you can I go to bed. When I wake up in the morning, I do a bit of exercise just to get my mind right. And then I sit down in front of my recording PC, listen back to whatever we were working on the night before, make any edits that I can. And then we start the songwriting and or recording process throughout the day. And we've been cooking meals for ourselves. So another friend of ours gave us, like a card similar to a Sam's Club or a Costco or something like that. But
sure,
it's a place where a lot of the restaurants actually go to supply themselves. It's called Hamburger Großmarkt. And they gave us their membership card and was like, "Go ahead, you can go in there and just stock up for the entire month." So we bought an absurd amount of food, and we've not really had to leave. So, we've self-quarantined. We've left. I have not left since I arrived 3 weeks ago. Neither has Steph. But other than just to walk around the farm or exercise or whatever and run a little bit or something.
Sure.
But I haven't gone to the local town or anything like that. But the guys have once or twice just to get some perishables that couldn't last for so long. That was stuff we went through. But really, we've only actually left this farm twice, I think, in 3 weeks.
What a bizarre scenario, and I can totally relate to that. I don't think we've left our house in the last month except for to get a couple of essential items. One thing we didn't have to leave our house for was to see you guys perform, which was very cool. We watched your quarantine concert and we enjoyed it very much. Tell me about that process of recording that and outputting that, and can you also talk about shifting your financial model to an almost purely online scenario now? And I want to talk also about the Patreon process, but let's first talk about the process with the quarantine concert. How did that go?
So that we were in a bit of a unique position just simply because when we canceled that tour, we canceled our US tour before a lot of other national touring acts did. I mean, you and I spoke on it's interesting that you and I are having this conversation now because this is 3 weeks after, right? And I had called you and told you, we're we feel that we probably have to cancel, but I think we're ahead of the game because in Europe, we had already seen what was going on. And frankly, not to be overly critical of the leader and the government there in the US, but that
please, by all means,
it had been. Yeah, I know. Let's keep it. Let's keep it where it is. But the information that had been coming out was, everything is fine, all is okay. And we were like, I don't think all's okay. Like, it doesn't look like that over here. And as far as I can tell, the same thing is happening over there and nobody's talking about. And so it was strange, at the very beginning when we were kind of, the day we canceled the tour, it was the next night or even the same night that before we had actually made a public announcement that finally the U.S. government took the position that they were going to actually stop all travelers from Europe. And when that happened, we were like, okay, we were right. And that was when we actually made our public announcement that we were canceling the tour. We had already decided the morning of, and that night the government finally took an action that we were expecting them to take. I was supposed to get on the plane that morning, and I was kind of sitting there like, I don't know what to do. I haven't announced the cancellation yet. We were pretty worried. And so when we canceled on the eve on that moment, we were like, hey, we can't just cancel a tour, because we've invested a lot into it. I mean, especially when you're a foreign act like we are, we're European based, there's a lot of cost up front to tour in the US. So we had visa expenses, we had marketing expenses, travel expenses, all those things. And we were able to recuperate some of that from the airlines in particular. They said, we understand, here they're giving you a voucher. It's quite frankly, it's pretty amazing that happened. But obviously we had a bill that we were stuck with, especially for, visa costs. To get a US visa for American or for non-American artists is quite expensive and cumbersome. It's a terrible process, actually. And so with those expenses in our mind, we thought, okay, well, we need to do something. Otherwise, this is going to really hurt us. And so in that moment, we just thought, well, why don't we do a concert? Why don't we just try to host a quarantine concert and market it as, okay, this is the show that we didn't get to do. And so I think we were in a unique position because we were able to kind of capitalize on that feeling that everybody had of, I really wanted to see this show. And we were like, well, we'll bring the show into your living room. And that was prior to the US actually seeing a full-blown lockdown. Well, not that it is, but some places having that, Frank.
Just to speak to that real quick, I did want to separate the people from the government in that while our government was saying, nothing to see here, myself and a lot of other people were very, very aware, and you could see what was going on, not only around the rest of the world, but even here in the States. So when you and I did have that conversation, it was a mutual decision to cancel, regardless of what the American government was saying. And I also wanted to mention, too, that with you guys having such a large online presence and oftentimes streaming these shows, it must have just been the common sense solution to this problem for you.
Definitely. And I mean, it was something that we had kind of done in the past, but not on this scale. And I think, that is the challenge for us, was we were all of a sudden having to say, okay, well, now we need to monetize something. And we chose not to go by donations, but we actually, set like a ticket price and then offered the option of donating on top of that if you wanted to. And when we were sitting there, it was like, okay, well, we can't just do a Facebook live stream or we can't just put a phone and stick a mic on it and call it a day. We've been doing that for years for free, right? We have to do something of a much higher quality. And so we went with, 4 cameras and we literally put studio sound, or as close as we could get to it, on a full live stream concert.
It was a great product.
It was actually done live. So that's the other thing. I mean, of course, it was pre-recorded, but that's because we were terrified that the internet would cut out, and we had taken money from. In the end, we sold about 750 tickets.
So that's great.
So for us, we were sitting there thinking, okay, we don't want 750 people to be pissed because all of a sudden we have this poor quality live stream due to the fact that we have poor internet where we are, and on top of it, everyone is on the internet right now. I mean, that's the other problem. Most networks are just overloaded as it is. So
sure. One of the things that was interesting about your live stream, or the quarantine concert, was you basically introduced a new member of the band. Can you talk about kind of the band prior to the new member and post introducing that new member, the direction you guys are headed?
Yeah. So that was a really cool thing to be able to do. And it was a surprise that, it's come together rather quickly. I mean, we had always dreamed. So we're a trio, it's the violin, guitar, percussion. And, now we added a bass, and the bass has been an instrument that we've been flirting with from a long time. I mean, logically and sonically, it makes sense. It fills an obvious gap, but also, you know, we waited a long time to find the right fit. You know, so it wasn't just, okay, you know, we think we need a bassist, let's go find somebody. We really, you know, waited until we found the right guy who was in the right mentality and in the right point in his life. Because obviously, if you know anything about us, we travel a lot, we tour a lot. We're very much living, eating, and breathing this music and this project and this band. And if you can't have somebody that can commit full time to that with heart and mind, then it didn't make any sense. And frankly, this person we caught at an incredible moment in his life, because he had just come back from 2 years of traveling after having another band that he had put his heart and soul into kind of break up, or at least take a long hiatus, I think is the correct way to say it. And so, you know, we weren't the rebound in the sense that, like, okay, the other band split, join us now, where his heart was still there. It was like, okay, he's had time to let that go through his system. He traveled, he took in a lot of experiences, and then he came back and said, I still really love music and I want to play. And he's come with a lot of fresh ideas and a lot of inspiration. And it's really helped this process here, where we've sat down, we've written already 7 or 8 new songs that are really good. I mean, they're just, frankly, it's better music than we were making before, I think, in a way, which is awesome. Yeah,
that is awesome, because the sound prior to adding, you know, the bass player was already such a full and refined and well-developed sound. When will folks get to hear these new recordings? When does this come out?
So I can't I wish I could tell you an exact date, right? So we've got a couple things going on, right? And this is because we've allowed ourselves to really just get creative and get weird. I've noticed that we're starting to put out different sounds. We have some stuff that really belongs, you know, in kind of like more of a dance nightclub space. And we've got some stuff that really belongs more in, you know, at a festival. It belongs outside. It belongs in a, you know, kind of a jam band kind of feel. Mm-hmm. And then there's this story. So we got the brilliant idea, or I don't know if it's brilliant, I hope it is someday, to basically, because we don't have lyrics, we wanted to write soundtracks. And so we created our own story. It's a sci-fi story. So I love the fact that I'm on this podcast in particular because it fits perfectly into what we've done. Yeah, it's literally about space travel. and we wrote this story that kind of has this really interesting twists and turns, and we have written all the music, the soundtrack for the story, and our idea is to release it kind of like a storybook in pieces, and the dream is, of course, to get somebody to animate it. But
very cool.
That's what we use Patreon for, if you want to turn that page and go there.
Yeah, let's transition into that. Let's talk about, is this moving forward, is being in a band a sustainable thing, and how does it work monetarily, at least for the time being? Is it all, I mean, how do you approach this? And yeah, let's talk about Patreon and what that is for you and what it is for your fans.
Sure. I think I would be horrified if I had to start a band in this environment. I think that I think for musicians that were at that point where they were really just starting out, or for bands that are really fresh, this is an amazing time to write. But I think that there's going to be a lack of real physical opportunity for a while, which is going to be painful, right? We benefit a little bit from the fact that we had videos go viral years ago. And so we do have very much an online-based fan base. And for us, in a way, we've actually figured out a way to reactivate a lot of people through these live streams, through, you know, and push our Patreon. And so for us, I think the question has been, you know, we've been on Patreon for years. We kind of used it as like really an exclusive, you are the closest 50 to 100 fans who are with us. And now we're starting to understand that we really need to use this platform more like a crowdfunding platform, and kind of say, hey, look, this isn't just about us making vlogs for you. And this isn't just about us making special content where we do face-to-face interviews, but this is about us having dreams and us having goals, and you making that possible by being a patron of what we do.
Mm-hmm.
So we've figured out a way kind of to rebalance and restructure our Patreon so that, exactly what I mentioned, this dream of doing an animated video, that's like a high-end goal, right? So it's like, hey, if we can get 750 patrons a month, then we could probably pay an animator to animate this for us, release this, and basically you all would be the producers of it.
Mm-hmm.
Or, if we can get 500, then we could make a storybook with illustrations. And if we can get 250 patrons, then we can release it, right? And that 250 number we're climbing there. So we've been really doing well in the last month. Obviously a lot of people have come to our aid and come to support us, and so it's been going well. But that model, I think, for the short term is going to be ours. And I do believe that it'll work. I do believe that there will be the possibility for us to be able to survive in the long term with some hybrid of, donation or ticket-based live concerts with obviously new sets and different. It won't be the same concert. It'll be something different, and also direct support through a platform like Patreon, as well as, of course, the normal releasing of music and all those different things.
Sure. When is the next concert? I saw you guys announce that. Was it April 18th? Was it?
April 18th, right? So 1
Okay.
week, April 18th. Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
That's great. In regards to what you were just saying about how you guys went viral, talk about how that happens. And is there any intent in that, or does it just happen and you watch it happen? And while it's happening, how does that feel?
Whoa. So that, yeah, cool. To be honest, we went like really viral at the end of 2017. Mm-hmm. And what had happened was at the end of 2016, we were in New York City, and we were busking. So we were playing outside in Soho, and there was a guy who came outside of the building, really cool guy. His name is Nick, and he looked at us and was like, "Yo, what you guys are doing is awesome. If you don't mind, can I take out my phone and can I film a live stream and put it on my Facebook page?" He's like, I have quite a few. And so we were like, yeah, sure, no problem. So the guy films it, posts it on his Facebook page. It turns out he was the page manager of a network called Urban Leak. And they had a couple million followers. And so we, from that live stream, gained about 1,000 fans on Facebook. And we thought, wow, this is okay. There's something here, right? And so we started to dedicate time and effort for the first time into Facebook. We started and social media in general. We really thought, okay, it's not just about posting pictures of ourselves. This is about, we're now at a point where people are in the internet are interested in what we do. So let's try. So we started making stuff and shopping it to different big curators and, hey, can you post that for us, or can you post that? And it was working, no question. And then the irony is that there was one video that some girl took of us playing in front of the cathedral during the Christmas time. And for whatever reason, somebody got their hands on it and posted it. And it was like, it just snowballed out of control. So we tried actively to grow using social media. But the moment that we had the big explosion of virality, it had little to do with us directly. It was like a guy saw it through another guy who might have seen it because we had showed something to him, but he found a different video. I don't even understand exactly how it all worked, but some guy shared something and then it just went crazy. And once you go viral, that's the thing. I don't know how it is now because things have changed quite a bit since that happened. Facebook's clamped down a lot since the election hacking and all that. But it was basically that the minute you go viral, everybody's knocking on your door asking to share that video. And so we were getting emails, we were getting all sorts of stuff from all these TV networks and everybody saying, hey, we've got this Facebook page with 4 million followers. Can we post your video? And we'll give you credit. And we were like, yeah, go for it, man. It's good publicity for us. You know what I mean? And it was crazy. Really crazy. We got a lot of gigs out of it. We got a lot of, we got festival bookings out of it. We got we got
you got a couple bookings out of me out of that. Actually, that's how I found out about you guys as well. And I was like, I gotta dig a little bit deeper, and I gotta get these guys, in Colorado. And yeah, that's definitely how I found out about you guys. How does that feel as that's happening?
Surreal, because we're not a fame hungry group really. But when it happened, it was kind of like, wow, you know what I mean? Like I can remember waking up like and just being able to refresh my phone, and like every few minutes, if I refresh my phone, there was like 400 or 500 extra people that had clicked like or follow, and then there were like messages coming in and there were people writing messages. I mean, you couldn't even respond to it all, and they were and every single message, or most of them, actually warranted a real response because people were writing heartfelt stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I just saw your video, I was super sad, and it brought me out and really made me feel better. Or I've been, for me as a violinist, I got people writing, hey, I used to study violin, I put it down for the last 10 years, and seeing that video makes me want to play again. And I'm sitting there going, I can't even respond to all these people. There's not enough hours in the day, because it was just like it was an explosion. And we actually had a friend of ours sit there and help, kind of cull through all the messages so that we could understand, okay, well, who needs to answer what? And because it was crazy. It was like we were inundated, and we were not used to that. We were used to 10 or 15 messages a month, and all of a sudden it was, I remember, I think we got 2,000 or 3,000 direct messages in Facebook in like 1 or 2 days.
Oh my God. Well, I will say I was grateful for you guys. You responded to my message, which I was grateful for, and it has since opened up this relationship with us. So I was grateful for that. And I remember the way that video made me feel. I had goosebumps from the second I saw it, and then watched it several times to follow.
Awesome. Well, I mean, I think that I have to give a lot of credit to our manager, Steph, because that's something that she really pushes on us, even in the times when we're, especially myself, when we're not like, oh man, I can't be bothered with Facebook right now, I really want to focus on this. And she's like, yeah, but this is really important, like staying connected with people and responding. And this for her is the way that we, kind of all help each other out, and the way that we all stay connected. And I think that's amazing, that we've been able to grow our network substantially because of our ability and our willingness to be very active in the response to what people are giving to us.
Sure.
Well, I know a lot of really like popular artists who they post shit and they never answer. They never respond. They're too famous. They're too big. They're too important, and it's like, from our side, I can't tell you how many people have said to us, just having responded, that meant the world. Like I said something to you, I didn't even expect you to respond. I expected you to treat me like every other, big famous artist does, and we're like, well, we aren't big famous artists. Like we come from the street, man. We played street music. So for us, it's just cool to even have people that are interested in giving us that feedback. Like that still humbles me. And that's not BS. Like it's real. It really does. When we get those messages, I sometimes I don't know what to do. It like chokes me up.
Sure. I can imagine. And I think with a lot of artists, their egos are their own worst enemy, where they're too good to respond, or, when the people who are your bread and butter are reaching out to you, it would be strongly advised to not only respond, but show appreciation. And you guys are great at that. And I will say too, as far as Steffi goes, there's managers, and then there is like the additional member of the band that may not play an instrument. And for me, she fits that role so perfectly, where, she's got the camera going, she's got video going, she's responding, she's pushing you guys to be active. And so her job as, a sort of manager, she's really gone above and beyond that. And that's a big part of, I'm sure, the success that you guys are seeing, and you guys are lucky to have her. And, in both ways, she's lucky to have you guys too. It seems like a really great combination. And, it's a well-oiled machine, and it's really great to watch.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, that part is really true. I think that we owe most of whatever you want to call success. Like we owe that to her. She pushes us to do stuff that a lot of us don't want to do. She and in a way, I'm not saying it in a negative way. It's like, that there are times where like we are just kind of like, oh man, I don't want to take that picture right now. And she's like, you know what, take the picture and shut up. And after we look at the pictures, then everyone's like, oh yeah, those are awesome. You know what I mean? But it's her, like she pushed that. She pushes, like she does that for us a lot. And she does it. The thing that I think is amazing is that Steph's not in it for the money. You know, I have a lot of friends who are signed up with management companies or whatever. And of course, these guys have huge networks. They know what's going on. And they're in it to make a buck on those artists. You know what I mean? And that's what I love you. It's what I really love about her. And it's what I love about a lot of other people like the two of you and your wife is that you support art simply because you believe in it. And you are the most important people. You are the thing that makes this world, this artistic world, go round. Really, I mean, I'd be still playing on a street corner somewhere if it wasn't for Steph and people like you and Carly. And yeah, I mean, come on, you know.
That's very sweet of you to say. I think that you see better results, obviously, when things are fueled by passion as opposed to fueled by money. And I think that you guys are a testament to that. And it's money makes things weird. Money makes things challenging. Money's essential, obviously, but there's nothing stronger, and there's no stronger driving force than passion.
Yeah, truth. We were talking about earlier this concert that we did, and we got a little bit of blowback, you know, for having done tickets. And there were a few people, you know, particularly, I think it's given the situation. Like they weren't saying, oh, why should I pay for your music? It's, you know, when I could see a live stream for free, they were kind of saying like, you know, how can you be charging for a live concert right now during this time when, you know, we all need your music? And it's kind of like, well, right. But I mean, we do need to live. And I think as an artist, especially, I mean, just for me personally, the position that I'm in is figuring out how to rectify those two things. Like I understand that the role of us and our music and the thing that we want to be is like spirit lifters. We want to help people feel emotions. We want to help people feel happy. We want to help pick people up. Sometimes we want to make you feel sad, right? I mean, if like it's to really feel emotions and tell stories and convey really heavy messages and powerful messages about human condition and about togetherness and connection. And I mean, that's really what we're about, right? But at the same time, we need to live in this world. And it's super difficult for us to rectify those two things because,
let me help. let me help just by saying, if number one, if people need your music right now, if they want your music right now, you've made just about everything free up to this point. So anybody's welcome to go back, listen to your Spotify, listen to your albums, go to your Facebook page, watch videos, go onto YouTube. There's so much of your music that you guys have made free nonstop. And the other side of that is too, that it wasn't like you were charging $25, $30, $50 a ticket. It was $5 a ticket. And if somebody can't support $5, listen, I understand it's a rough time, but you guys have to eat, and you've done nothing but give yourselves and your music to people for so long that I just don't see much merit in that argument. And I think that when people are in a bad spot or people are in a tight spot, which there's probably more so now than a long time, at least in our lifetime, so of people struggling, I think that they're going to output the negative in any way possible, even if it's not a rational thought necessarily.
Yeah, man. I mean that's how I think about it without question. Yeah, but I mean, it's just it was absolutely a moment of, you know, I made a post. I'm sure you saw it. I made a post on Facebook where right after it happened, because all of us got hit by it. We were like, damn, like people are really going to come after us for that. You know what I mean? Like, it was like a couple just kind of snotty comments, you know, and like, oh, we're disappointed in you, you know, kind of thing. And I was like, damn, like, what am I supposed to starve like in front of your house? You know what I mean? It was just the way my initial reaction was just kind of like, man, like I can't believe that I'm going to get shit for this, you know? So
there's a weird expectation in the music industry, and this goes back to guest list spots. This goes back to artists supporting other artists and friends supporting artists. Everybody wants something for free. No one goes to anybody else's job and says, give me stuff for free because I know you. And in fact, it should be the opposite. If you know someone, you should be supporting them. If you like somebody's output in their art and their music, you should be supporting them. And I thought what you guys did was great. I thought the ticket, the price point was great. And again, if people want to check out, if people can't afford a $5 ticket right now, I totally get it. And there's a ton of free music that you guys have put out that is available to those folks right now. And you do have to eat, and you do have to be able to generate income to continue to create this art that we all love. So on the other side of that argument, I'm so grateful that you made it affordable. I recently lost my job as I work in the music industry, so I was able to afford the $5. I was grateful it wasn't more, and that concert really uplifted my spirit at a time where things were dark. So I'm grateful for you guys in that.
Thank you, man. So I'll leave you with one last thing, and that is in basically exactly what you've said, that artists, we always, or not we, but it's often the case that people want guestless spots or they want stuff for free. And we thought to ourselves, and with our Patreon community, okay, we got what we needed, from the last live stream. Listen, we didn't like ride the bank all the way home. We're not millionaires. I'm not going out and buying a yacht right now. But we covered our losses and we were able to pay our rent. Right. And so we thought to ourselves, okay, we're going to do another one of these on the 18th of April, but this time we're going to also do it with a bit of a charitable mission. So we made a commitment, to ourselves first, that we were going to donate 25% of whatever we made to a cause, but we didn't know what the cause should be. Right. So what we did was we went to our Patreon community and we proposed a number of causes. And I'm blown away at the fact that our page actually chose, it seems that they've chosen artists, venues, organizers who are struggling as the person that we should donate 25% to, right?
Wow.
So what we're thinking about doing is basically either reaching out and supporting the venues that we were supposed to do that show with, where things got canceled. Because a lot of people don't think about this, but you and I, we love Martyrs. I'm from Chicago. Martyrs is one of the last independent venues of its size. It probably is the last one in Chi City, right? That place is an institution for me. If it goes, we are screwed.
I agree with that. Ray has done some really great things, not only for Chicago, and I was actually just at Martyrs for the first time within the last year or so, and walking into that place, while I'm talking to you right now, I have goosebumps. Just because I'm physically affected by the impact that both Ray and Martyrs has had, not only on the Chicago scene, but without a place like Martyrs, I don't know if I could do what I'm doing out here in Denver even. As weird as that may sound, it's such an essential place. So I do agree with you. Without those places, we're left with only the major promotional companies' venues, and that's a very dangerous thing when it comes to monopolization and to making sure that artists are treated fairly, that fans aren't getting gouged on tickets, and so on.
Yep, that's it, right? And that the price gouging is one thing, and the other thing that I think people don't really understand is these guys that own venues, they cannot absorb 1 month of losses. Like they just can't. They literally are running month to month, most of them. They don't have, huge cash reserves sitting around. They've got to pay their staff. They've got, the overhead of the alcohol. They've got all these different things or not food, whatever it is. Rents are skyrocketing, especially in a lot of cities.
Right. And
like these guys, if you're not buying, if you in the audience out there is not going out and buying tickets and going to those shows, those places are going to die. And that's where I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, we just canceled this tour and I want to go to a lot of these venues and I want to play the shows next year. Are they going to even exist? Right. And so I think as an artist, I would love to also, I think that's not being told, that story's not being talked about enough. And it's something Steph and I literally were talking about today is we need to get more artists around who actually voice that and explain to people, listen, it's not just about us. It's also about all the places that support us and all the people that support us. And they're hurting more than we are in some ways. And if they go, we are screwed. Where are we going to play? Berlin has an actual commission, a city commission that's built for just the nightclubs. And those clubs, they support each other in a big way. They all understand that if one of them goes down, they're all going to go down. And so they support each other. And in this situation right now, they're inviting the DJs and they're inviting the artists to come in, do live streams from an empty venue, and they're posting it all over the internet. And so it's like basically, oh, tonight we're in Sisyphus, or tonight we're in this club, or and tonight we're in that club. And every night it's a different club with a different artist.
I love that. I love that, but it's so uniquely European to me. That's the sound of that.
Yeah, it's super Berlin. Berlin is really cutting edge when it comes to that kind of stuff, without question. This me versus the rest of the world mentality. I'm a U.S. citizen, right? So I love the U.S., man. Like, I really do. I still pay attention to the news. I hope the best for the country. Touring there is one of my favorite things. Our U.S. fans are incredible. You know, it's a great place to be, to play music. The supporters are amazing, right? But there is this kind of elephant in the room, which is that like the cutthroat, you know, uber capitalist mentality that exists there. It's like, you know, if I need to look out for myself and F everyone else. That is just toxic, man.
That elephant in the room is called late stage capitalism. And it makes people do real weird things.
I watched something from Ray Dalio this morning. I don't know if you know who that is, but he's the founder of Bridgewater Capital, like one of the biggest hedge funds in the world, right? And this guy is, honestly, you know, I'm not saying I like what they do, but he is a genius when it comes to reading the market.
Sure.
And he's basically said, listen, like, this is 1930. We are right now in a moment where our entire economic system is going to shift.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to change, and there's going to be two things that's going to happen. There's going to be essentially a debt forgiveness, and there's going to be a redistribution of wealth. That's what always happens every 75 years. That basically this has run its course. We've gotten to the point where the income distribution is too messed up, and we risk, you know, half the world basically being completely broke and forced into starvation, or we need to forgive debt, and the people that have way too much need to give away a lot of it in order to be able to keep the people that don't have anything from starving. And if that doesn't happen, then there will be full-scale, wide-scale revolution. And this is a really, 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 really smart guy who has made his entire career as an investor saying that. You know what I mean? Like, this is the writing on the wall. This is where we are. And I
think he's probably spot on. And whether it's armed revolution or revolution through changes in how we do business, how we purchase, how we use our data, there's a revolution coming, because this isn't a tenable situation. Exactly
what he said. It's literally one or the other. Like, it could be, you know, it could be just be that essentially that we have a change in our monetary policy that's revolutionary. There could be a lot of different things that could change, but something of a grand scale over the next 3 to 5 years is going to change.
And it's in everybody's interest. It's in the interest of the billionaires as well, because without stability, they cannot continue to earn, and their security and safety and prosperity is all at risk as well.
Exactly. And I think that's the point, is that this situation is actually pushing that tipping point. You know, before things were, what was the statistic? You know, the average American couldn't afford an unexpected $400 expense.
I think it was upwards of like 90% or something. I don't quote me on that, but it was extremely high. I was having this conversation the other day, and it's a staggering number.
It's a staggering number. And you think about it now, well, look at this situation. So what, now 90% of the American people are absolutely money effed.
1/3 of Americans didn't pay their rent in April.
Crazy. And then on top of that, what, they're going to give $1,200 in stimulus? Like, here in Europe, $1,200 is a sizable chunk of change. That's my rent plus this, plus that. For the average American living in a city, that doesn't even cover your rent.
It doesn't cover our rent. And also, the way the system is working, some people won't receive their actual checks because the government is an archaic system here when it comes to check and wealth distribution on any level, which is obviously a very rare scenario. It's that some of these checks may end up taking upwards of 6 months to get to people's bank accounts.
Holy shit. Well, at least it'll have Trump's signature on it.
He made damn sure of that, you know. It's what a weird time we're living in, but a time that's necessary. We saw the writing's been on the wall for a long time. Here we are. We didn't know it was a virus that was going to bring us to this point, but we're at a breaking point, and we're at the crossroads basically. And my God, do I hope that we make a left instead of a right.
We've been punching the U.S. like in the last 5 or 10 minutes, but honestly, over here, I'm not optimistic about that. You know, I think in Germany, I think we're in an interesting situation. You know, the more right parties have risen a bit, but it's because of the history, it's stayed relatively at bay, but not in comparison to Hungary, for example, where literally Orban, the leader there, has basically been given dictatorial powers until the end of the virus. And he is, in my opinion, a very terrifying force. And then on top of it, you have Poland is not really in a much better situation. I love Italy very much. And, you know, they made a big statement in their last elections, but how is this new economic crisis that they're going to be seeing as a result of this going to push that fragility, right? I mean, they just kind of made a left turn after going right.
Right.
And, you know, the question is, are they going to go back now? Because this is a much more serious situation than they were in before.
Yeah, there's a dismantling of oversight and a dismantling of checks and balances going on here in this country by our dear leader as well. On a daily basis, we're seeing some of the protections being undone.
Yeah. And we need world cooperation more than ever. Like, this is a moment where somebody's going to have to pay a debt of trillions of US dollars. They're going to have to print $5 or $6 trillion just for all the austerity measures that all these countries are going to need.
You're not advocating for a new world order, are you?
Well, I mean, essentially, we're living in a new world order, and I'm arguing that the new world order is ending, mate. And we're gonna have to figure out whatever comes next, and the only way to do that is to work together. You could make the argument. I mean, not to go. I mean, we've gone there, but I would say, you know, I studied in university, and my degree is in international economics and diplomacy, right? And so we studied I worked at the UN before I was doing this music thing, and I loved the United Nations, but I can always say that it was the most beautiful, most wonderful, frustrating place that you could ever work at. And that essentially the problem with the quote new world order that everybody talks about is that it actually had no bite. That the UN was all bark and no bite. All you could do was tell people that they should behave a certain way and had all this soft power, right? But there's no hard power in anything. So if I sign up, you know, if I'm country X and I agree to a resolution and I break that resolution, there's no penalty for me, really, unless all the other countries band together and do something about it.
Right.
Well, now imagine you're a world superpower like the US or China or Russia or one of these other powers. You know, you decide you don't want to do something, you break the law. Well, who's going to punish you, right? Because the threat of punishment is war. And so, and I think that's the reality is that there is no system to force people to behave in a certain way when it needs to be. And I think that's what unfortunately is lacking, and what ultimately we're going to have to make a decision about as a world is, in the case of a virus, does there need to be a stringent set of rules that we all need to adhere to stop it from spreading so that we don't have our economies take the beating that they're taking now? And who's going to enforce that? And, you know, are we willing to be okay with some world government essentially existing that we would have to give control to?
I think it's interesting because it shows how interconnected we really are, more so than ever before. This thing, you know, coming out of a certain part of the world and crossing the whole globe, and, you know, it just shows our interconnectedness, and that if we don't work together, these things aren't going to stop. These waves of viruses, these, you know, they come and go, but there'll be something else if not this in the future. And if we don't work together, don't have a plan in place, don't have a solution, where are we going?
Exactly. And I think that's the crazy thing is if we're going to be so interconnected where tomorrow, you know, in 6 hours, if I can get on an airplane from Germany and be in New York City, I mean, there are businessmen right now who go to Europe and basically come back within a day. I mean, that was unfathomable 50 years ago, 75 years ago. That was unfathomable. You know what I mean? And it's getting quicker. The flights are getting quicker. It's getting more easy to move around. public transportation in a lot of places is getting better. It's faster, it's more efficient. And so essentially, what I'm asking myself is, if that's the case, how can we still be operating in a system that was built in the 1940s? I mean, we're living in a world that was constructed in 1945, basically. And our technology doesn't at all reflect 1945. So how can our system still reflect 1945? And that, I think, ultimately is what the discussion that we need to have is, is it time for a full-scale, massive update of our entire world order?
Well, you've got my vote.
I'm not advocating a position, actually. All I'm saying is that it's a conversation that needs to be had, and it's a conversation that needs to be had with adults and not, me first children.
I understand. Yes. I don't know that with the current systems we have in place, it allows for these sort of conversations. So until capitalism is a thing of the past, then I don't know how we look forward as a global society. I don't, I'm at a loss on how that progress works.
Me too, man.
The songs featured in this episode were Rocky Road to Republic and Banger Jam.